It's Maria from Still Dreaming Homestead. I'm back home. My son Jason got released from the hospital. He had had a stroke, but he's doing much better again. And I'm praising God for that. And I want to thank you to anybody and everybody that prayed for Jason. I appreciate it. Yesterday, when I read, we were reading Those Who Wait. Like Two Mom went to Alfred's house, and Alfred's little brother was very worried that his brother Alfred would never come back anymore. So they're trying to tell them that that's not true. He will come back. But they don't know that for sure. And Grandpa, he's just out at the cabin by himself without any phone or anything. And he's watching Hero, and he keeps seeing signs that Hero knows that his boy's in trouble. And he has been in trouble on that raft. Well, let's go on to chapter 8. Trouble rides the rafts. So this is out of the D.J. Dillon adventure series, Escape Down the Raging Rapids. The frantic mothers had no way of knowing that their sons were floating on a quiet stretch of water in one of Mad River's granite-walled canyons. The boys weren't exactly safe, but they were alive. DJ's overboard experience was fresh in his mind. He was nervous because Tobin still paddled behind him. At lunch, DJ had not asked Connie if he could switch places with someone. DJ wasn't sure how he could justify his request without saying Tobin pushed me overboard and almost got me drowned. What if Connie would not believe him? Certainly, Tobin would deny the charge or at least claim it was an accident. DJ thought about that as he paddled automatically, vaguely aware that his muscles were a little sore. His mind wandered. I wish I could figure out who Tobin's got me mixed up with. The sun had already passed over the western canyon walls. Deep shadows were beginning to fill the river gorge when the two rafts came to their camp in a pretty little cove. A small valley extended inland through a break in the canyon walls. DJ stepped ashore, sore from paddling, but considerably relieved that nothing had happened to him since his unexpected dunking earlier that day. He walked over to Alfred, who was standing near where the first raft was drawn up on the shore. Alfred asked anxiously, "You okay?" "Fine. Not a thing happened this afternoon." Alfred worked his shoulders slowly, making a face. Ugh. "I never did have any extra weight on me, but this hard work is going to wear me down to a wetsuit full of bones." "Oh, that's funny." "My muscles are sore," DJ replied, gingerly flexing his biceps. "But I'll take that to the fires and being in that icy water." "How about the flea bite?" DJ considered that a moment, then shrugged. "I feel fine. I guess no symptoms would show up for several days anyhow." "By then, we'll be at Summit City," Alfred said. "You'll get your shots while I call your parents." "Good idea. Dad or Two Mom will let your folks know we're okay." "Boy, I'll feel better when that's done. Well, let's hop around here and then see where we're going to sleep." "How about right by the river?" DJ shook his head. "Too noisy. I'd rather sleep back inland so I can hear if anybody comes prowling around. Besides, my dad always taught me to camp away from the river in case it rises unexpectedly while you're sleeping." The boy paused, thinking of his father. At that same moment, Sam Dillon stopped his car on the country road near where DJ's grandfather lived. Dad Dillon balanced himself carefully as he walked across a narrow plank that had been laid across the creek, which murmured pleasantly, sliding over stones. DJ's father passed the cottonwood trees, now fluttering in a light breeze. He climbed the rutted hill toward the small frame house that was almost hidden in the trees. He wondered if DJ would ever again take this walk himself. The thought was so awful that the lumberman shook his head, forcing that idea away. Instead, he tried to imagine what his father would say. I sure hope he doesn't give me any trouble, Sam Dillon thought. He can be so darn right unreasonable sometimes. Whoops! That's Hero's bark. He's heard me, and stranger. The powerful logger called above the dog's loud barking. It's me! Grandpa yelled back, You got good news? It took Dad Dillon a moment to say, No. That sounded so terrible that he immediately added, Not yet. Minutes later, Grandpa rocked in his squeaky old cane-bottomed chair while his son sat sadly on the top step. Dust slowly settled and peacefully over them and the two dogs, but Grandpa's hard rocking showed he was not peaceful within. By thunder, he roared, driving the rubber tip of his cane so hard that the splintery porch that both dogs jumped. I'm not just going to sit here like a bump on a frog and do nothing. Son sighed. Now, just what in the world do you think you're going to do? Grandpa rocked faster. His squeaking chair almost seemed in pain. I'm going to put on my boots. Get me my hard hat. And go up there looking for my grandson. That's what I'm going to do. You can't do that. Grandpa let out a bellow. Why in tarnation can't I? He rocked harder and faster. He only did that when he was really upset. His son started to warn, Careful, you'll rock so hard you'll... His warning came too late. The old red cane-bottomed chair tipped so far backward that it fell with a crash. Grandpa was thrown against the wall, his legs sticking up in the air. His overall pants slid up, showing he still had on long underwear, even though it was June. You hurt? Dad Dillon asked, leaping up from the top step. Course I ain't hurt, the old man roared, rolling over on his side and trying to get his wire-framed glasses back on. This here's ornery chair's done throw me, that's all. He pulled his knees under him, grabbed his Irish shillelagh, and began whacking it on the overturned rocker. Dagabit! What's the world coming to when a man's own chair treats him like a wild bronco does a cowboy? Dad Dillon tried to suppress a smile. You sure you're all right? Didn't I tell you I was? Grandpa bellowed, stopping the blows on the chair. I'm well enough to go help my grandson, that's what. He shoved himself to his feet with the aid of the cane. Now, he cried as he started towards the screen door, you give me one good reason. While I can't go looking for... His question was suddenly broke as an arthritic hip betrayed him. It buckled, and Grandpa fell heavily, both dogs leaping out of the way. Dad Dillon gently helped his father up. That's why you can't go, he said softly. The old man's blue eyes glistened with frustrated and unshed tears. He said fiercely through clenched teeth, It's no good to get old. A man can't even trust his own body. Impulsively, Dad reached out a powerful arm and engulfed his father within his mighty shelter. Neither man spoke, but their bodies quivered slightly with the sobs they refused to let come to sound. Far up on Mad River, darkness had settled. The rafters had changed from wetsuits to casual clothes. After the evening meal, the Rafters gathered around the campfire. DJ sensed a strong bond of friendship growing among all of them, except Tobin. He still gave DJ hard, cold looks across the campfire. DJ's thoughts jumped to the germs that might be getting ready to strike within his body. He brushed that idea away. Renee's cheerful voice interrupted DJ's melancholy musings. "Hey, everybody, let's sing." "Great idea," Alfred replied, firelight reflecting off his glasses. "Around the campfire, the only time anybody will let me sing." The general good humor of the group was strengthened by the resulting laughter. At first, DJ was surprised at his best friend's words and actions. Then DJ told himself, he's probably just as worried as I am, but he's trying to keep his mind focused on something else. Wish I could. Connie produced a small waterproof guitar from a special case. The sad-faced Ray brought out a harmonica. Maybe the scar-faced man only looked mean. Maybe he had sadness inside, a pain that he couldn't share, like DJ. The people started singing. Everyone participated except DJ. He didn't feel like it. His mind jumped about. He thought about the frightening moments when he was overboard. He thought about the flea bite and the possible bubonic plague. But that didn't seem so bad now. There was still time to get to a doctor. DJ's mind leaped to Stony Ridge and then back to Tobin. DJ thought, he threatened me, and I'm sure he meant it. But why? I know he pushed me overboard today. What if he does something tonight when I'm asleep? DJ realized his family and Alfred's family would be praying for the boy's safety. A verse came to the boy's mind that Brother Paul had preached on recently. What was it? Something about, when you pass through the waters, I will be with you, and through the rivers, they will not overflow you. Isaiah 43, verse 2. There was another promise too, something about God is with you when you are with him. 2 Chronicles 15:2. DJ told himself, I'm doing my best to be with him. That was comforting because it seemed only trouble rode the rafts, and most of it was heaped on DJ. He felt it was going to get worse. He couldn't explain that feeling, but DJ was terribly uneasy. He had been in too many dangerous places not to recognize the symptoms and the signs. In an hour or so, the singing ended. The people told stories. There was lots of laughter. Even the scar-faced Ray joined in, but not DJ. He had too much to think about. A pale moon had risen above the canyon wall by the time storytelling had ended. Conversation lagged. People stared silently into the dying flames of the campfire, lost in their own private worlds of thought. Finally, Brad said goodnight and went to his sleeping bag. That seemed to be the signal for all the Rafters to produce small, lightweight, waterproof flashlights. They followed the individual pinpoints of light away from the fire to where, in the daylight, they had pitched 1 or 2 man tents or unrolled sleeping bags provided by the rafting company. In a few minutes, only DJ, Alfred, and Connie remained at the campfire. She rose and doused the fire, but didn't soak it so it would be easy to start in the morning. Night, boys, she said, and followed her flashlight into the darkness. DJ and Alfred didn't have lights, but that didn't bother them. They found their way to where they'd placed their sleeping bags. Like both guides, the boys preferred to sleep under the stars. without a tent. DJ didn't really expect any trouble from Tobin, but just in case, the boy had spread their sleeping bags about 10 feet above Brad's head. The Swarzy brothers had a two-man tent to Brad's right. Ray had his one-man tent to the chief guide's left. Both boys removed their tennis shoes, shirts, and pants in the darkness. They slid into their bags. Alfred promptly fell asleep. DJ stared up at the sky. There was some sign of smoke from the fires, but the stars were still visible through the haze. DJ's mind filled with many thoughts. Those included his father. The boy asked himself, why doesn't Dad ever tell me that he loves me? Maybe because he really doesn't. If he did, why wouldn't he say the words? DJ's thoughts continued until the moon disappeared beyond the western canyon. It was very dark in the camp. Coyotes howled in the distance. An owl hooted close by. Finally, DJ's racing mind slowed. He said his prayers and drifted off in a troubled sleep. Always a light sleeper, he was awakened sometime later by a slight sound. What was that? He wondered. He raised his head, ears straining to hear whatever had roused him. The camp was in total darkness. Alfred snored lightly in the sleeping bag beside DJ. From various points around the camp, DJ could hear the sounds of other sleeping people. Somebody was awake. DJ was sure of that. But who? Tobin? DJ's heartbeat increased at the thought. Maybe Tobin was trying to sneak up on him. The sound came again. It was very faint. Yet it was obvious that someone without a light was slipping stealthily through the darkened camp on DJ's right. He tensed, ready to roll out of his sleeping bag and yell or do whatever was necessary. He listened intently for several minutes, but the sound did not come again. Slowly, DJ relaxed and went back to sleep. Sunday morning, he and Alfred got up and went to wash at the river. All the other men were present except the Swarzy brothers. DJ mentioned that to Alfred, who shrugged and said they probably were off by themselves. At breakfast, Tobin and Odell still had not been seen. DJ heard Brad asking Connie if she'd seen the Swarzy brothers. She shook her head, no. At that moment, Tobin came striding out of the little cove near the line of trees snuggled up against the towering granite walls. Tobin walked straight up to Brad and said, "My brother Odell has disappeared." Wow. Wonder what happened to Odell. Well, we'll find out tomorrow. I hope you're enjoying this story. I did. And this is actually the second time I started reading this. I thought I would tell you. So I'm sitting in my room, my window's open to let in the cool night breeze. And I live on a homestead, so I have chickens. And it is late at night, it's after 10:30, and all of a sudden I heard the chickens squawking. I call it screaming. And I knew something was trying to get a chicken because chickens are very quiet at night. So I went running out barefoot, couldn't find my shoes, and yelling, "Something's getting the chickens." So Jason and Donnie and I all went out. Jason just went to the porch, but he found the light for us because it's so dark tonight. And when we got out there, there was the chicken. Some of the new hens are not wanting to sleep in the hen house. And we got 3 of them put into the hen house instead of on the fence. But then I noticed another one and I thought it was dead on the ground. But when we shined the light at it, it did jump up and move. I caught it, and on the side of its face, it's been injured by whatever was trying to get my chicken. Well, that's how come I had to start all over again, because I left it. This is Maria from Still Dreaming Homestead. I love you, I really do. And I want to pray blessings on you, in your house and out of your house, in the day and the night. Whatever you do, keep dreaming. Keep a story in your heart. Good night.